Well, good morning. How's everyone? Yeah, I know the computers are having issues this morning. It's a Monday morning. What do you expect? I know most people don't like to go to class on Mondays either, right? Especially cold Mondays, right? Now, when I told y'all last week, I don't read you PowerPoints. That's right. I don't read them to you. We discuss them. Okay? We will go over them, but I'll discuss them with you. That's why I want you to have read the chapter beforehand. How many of you read the chapter? Okay. What was the guy's name that the author discussed when we were talking about the automobile? When we were talking about the guy that was driving the automobile who about his rims. Uh huh.
I don't know if I highlighted it.
Aiden. Hey, Carol. Aiden. Okay. We'll be discussing Aiden quite a bit today. All right, and using him, and we'll be using him as his illustration on how what the difference is between threats, agents, vulnerabilities, exploits, so that you can use that illustration to better understand the IT terminology. And if that illustration doesn't work for you, I will try to put it in a different terms for you, okay? We're going to talk about the challenges of security. We will describe and define information security. Why is it important to you? What does it matter? What makes it valuable? Okay? We're going to describe what the intent of attackers are. Why would they want to do something to you? Are they going to go after Matthew over here? Or are they going to go after Rose State? Okay? And then we're going to talk about the difference between the CIA triad and the AAA triad. Okay? And how they work hand in hand. And why the AAA triad is not as defined as the CIA triad. And why there's the differences of them. And why you won't see the AAA triad as much on a Security Plus as you will see the CIA triad. Okay? And wouldn't you know?
No class. Yay. Apparently, back in my dad's day of college, I think, the professor would sporadically say, okay, your slides don't work. Give your presentation. But it works, sadly.
Why, when you come to a security, the aspect of security has become ever more prevalent in the 21st century. Why would y'all think that? Why has it become more prevalent now than it did, say, 10 years ago? Exactly. The interconnection of devices are ever more populous. Just the advent makes it more advantageous to get because people have smartphones now. Do you know in 2010, smartphones started out selling PCs for the first time? You remember that from reading in the book? You know, there are a lot of different ways that security comes into play. Have you noticed you go into stores now and you see electronics everywhere, right? You can go into J.C. Penney's and Kohl's and see the digital tags, digital readouts for the prices. So they don't have to go and waste paper to put price tags on things now. They can change them instantly. Those are pretty neat, huh? I've seen them in grocery stores. The commissaries are now doing that. It's kind of neat. So all I have to do is just change the keystroke in the computer, hit enter, and the price changes automatically at the register and on the shelf. You could be in the middle of shopping and notice that it's changed by the time you pick up the product, by the time you get to the cash register. How weird is that? Isn't it? Do what?
Technology's getting cheap. I mean, a big screen, flat screen TV used to be something only rich people had, and now they're used in restaurants as menus.
Exactly. What are some of the security warnings that you may see?
Well, I just got a thing that said, hey, if you want Java to run, because apparently it's not active on here, this site needs to run Java. Yes, no.
Yeah.
Or, hey, we don't have this site doesn't have a security certificate, whatever thing's not authorized or whatever.
What about ActiveX? What about ASP?
What's that?
Active server pages? Why is it necessary? What about JavaScript?
Yeah, didn't Java, well, recently at least have some really big hole that was
Oh yeah,
kind of bad, just a bit, or something?
Java Update 21.
Yeah.
It was very bad. They removed the security handshake out of it. Someone thought it was a worthwhile idea to remove the authentication protocol out of Java Update 21, and it crashed Java. All Java applications couldn't run because they couldn't authenticate anybody. And somehow it made it through their test area and passed, and then they pushed it out to everybody, and all Java applications failed worldwide. So if you updated that one, and then it took them like 5 updates to try to get it fixed. So today's security attacks are made easier by better processing, better memory. Now, if you're in the book, you probably remember that you hear the graphics processing unit. Y'all remember that?
GPU.
The GPU. What is the GPU?
It's meant to take some of the load off of the CPU by processing the graphics separately.
Right.
Kind of like the new thing in the new iPad Airs, only they do it with motion instead of graphics.
Right. By the use of a GPU, back 10 years ago, if you wanted what they call terpals or terapals, 7 terapals would have cost you $110 million. Right now, you're looking around 50 trillion terapals for $500 or for $100. And to be able to process that much data is unheard of. You can put them on smartphones. That's where GPUs process a lot of information. To be able to take an old smartphone and put Kali Linux on it. Isn't that crazy? Make that a mobile hacking tool. Pick up Wi-Fi signals from an significant other. Boy, talk about eavesdropping. Violating a lot of law. So if you want to sit back in my class in about an hour and a half after this class, we'll start talking about that kind of stuff. That'll be fun.
What class is that?
Cyber law.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't mean how to do it, you just mean don't do it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Some of the recent attacks that have been going on. How many of you are familiar with the Nigerian 419 attack?
I didn't know that was like still happening. It was saying,
Oh yeah, they do it all the time. How many of you have been a target of the Canadian bank attack, where they send you a check for $5,000 and say go cash it and send us $4,900 of it, and we'll send you your check for $25,000 because that's their processing fee. And you keep the first $100 and is the down payment. And so when you go cash it, it's for the supposed company that you've won inheritance from, some bank. And when you go cash it, the bank dishonors it because the account's been closed because it was an account for a company, some bedrock company somewhere, and it's just a scam. It was a real account, but they've sent it out to millions of people. And when all these checks started coming in, maybe the first two cleared, but after that they started catching on. And then all these wire transfers go to these people in Canada, to a bogus post office box, and they get the money, and then they walk out, and they're never seen from again. All they take, 5, 10 times, they got 100,000, easy money. Pretty cool, isn't it? Neat little scam. All you got to do is get 10 people that are not really paying attention, and they do it. Why is it difficult to defend against attacks?
Changes all the time. For one.
Like you said earlier, Tracy, we're universally connected. Because the second you get attacked, that attack is going to spread out to everyone else. Because you're universally connected. So once it hits, it's gone. It keeps pushing itself out. So it's not just like we hit Daphne's computer. Well, Daphne's computer is connected to every other computer in this room. So it's not an isolated computer like it was when we were on dial-up. Every computer is connected at all times. That's what makes it a lot more difficult. The increased speed. We're all on broadband connection, high-speed backbones, 100 megabits, gigabit backbones. You have people that are a lot more knowledgeable in the field. You have a lot less script kiddie type people. How many of you familiar with the term script kiddie?
Oh.
Okay. But there's also delays in patching, right? How long does it take Microsoft to put out patches? There's an estimate of 6 to 8 months after they find the exploit before they patch it.
I don't understand that part. That really makes no sense why it would take so long to fix something that
Well,
still works.
Well, when you have to take it, find out what the vulnerability really is, then you have to try it and make sure it doesn't break anything else. I mean, it does take some time, part of this SDLC. So, I mean, I understand that, but it shouldn't take 6 to 8 months. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It should take maybe a month. But then again, you have to look at what is the resource department for. If there's only one person coding, okay, I can understand that if he's got 10,000 other things to do. But a company as big as Microsoft should be pushing them out a lot quicker than that. But that's typically about what they say that they're doing. Now, some of it I don't really agree with. They may be putting that out there just to make sure the attackers think, oh, well, we have 6 to 8 months to play with. And they may be putting it out the day they find it, too. Who knows? So, now that we understand the value of information security, what types of attacks and how it's difficult to defend them. What is information security? What is the definition of information security? Kristen? What do you think it is? In your own words. Don't give me the book answer.
That's good because I don't remember what it said word for word. Information security is just, I mean, I don't want to just say keeping information secure, but it's as simple as that, really.
Okay. That's fine. Could you, Aaron, consider information security to be a state of freedom from danger or risk?
If it's secure, like as in the status of being protected,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Would you consider that a good definition?
As long as you have enough levels of security. If you just have a couple easy things, then I wouldn't be very.
Or let me rephrase it. What about the state or condition of freedom exists because protective measures are established and in place?
Yeah.
You like that definition better?
Yeah.
Okay.
It also needs to be available if you need it too.
That,
Availability, CIA thing.
that always kind of got to me a little bit. I guess for me,
Mm-hmm.
the C in the eye, the confidentiality and the integrity, that thing, just intrinsically, I guess, or emotionally, viscerally, whatever, I go, that's the secure part. I get that it needs to be available because it's an asset or whatever. We're skipping around. I get that it's, supposed to be used, but for me, I go, it's in the bank vault, or it's in that black safe that you have that's fireproof, and that's the only thing that survives the fire when your house burns down, whatever. That's secure. Getting access to it, yeah, I know that I want to, but for me, like, just, it feels like it's a different, it feels like security is one thing, the confidentiality, the integrity, but the availability is something that we want because we're going to use it. But if we weren't going to use it, I don't care about that. It's secure because it's secure.
We'll get to CIA triad here in just a minute.
Yeah.
So, before we can really defend it, we have to understand what the information security is, right? Which we've kind of discussed what it is. So, in order to best understand information security, we have to understand that it's really the information security, the task is to guard information that's in a digital format. That's what information security is. It ensures that the protective measures are properly implemented and cannot completely prevent attacks or guarantee that a system is totally secure. You'll understand that, right? You can never guarantee a system is totally secure. Last semester, I don't know if any of you went by my office and really looked at the note I had on my board. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. A guy was professing in there. He says, if you follow all these guidelines to securing a system, your system will be protected and no one can hack it. But his disclaimer says, I'm not an information security professional and I cannot guarantee the system would not be hacked. I thought it was hilarious. You say follow these, your system will be secured. Then in the disclaimer, he says the totally opposite. And it was in the same, within like 5 paragraphs of each other. It was just hilarious. So it just goes to show that people say one thing and can't do anything else. And I'm surprised the editor of that article didn't catch it. So now we understand and we've defined what information security is. Let's talk a little bit about the types of information protection, which is the CIA triad. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality. What is it? Well, it allows only approved individuals to access information. Simple. We only want those who have the need to know to have access. Right? If you don't have the clearance to have this information, you don't get to see it. If you don't work for my company, you don't get to see it. As simple as that. Integrity. No one can alter this document unless you have the clearance or approval to do so. This document has not been altered. How many of you have ever checked the meta information of a document to validate that it has not been changed since or the change management of a document? Anytime you create a document in a public workplace, there should be a change management form on there saying anytime the document has been altered. How many of you have ever seen a car manufacturer's technical order? Or this book? What does it say? 4th edition? This 4th edition says that this book has been altered 4 times. This is the 4th time it's been altered. That's change management. So the integrity of this book has been altered 4 times from the original source. That's all it says. Availability. This book has been available to everyone that has the rights to see it, right? In this instance, Cengage has put it out there so that everyone has the right to read it for a cost of whatever it cost you to buy the book from whoever you bought it from. If you bought it from Rose State Bookstore, it was probably astronomical. If you bought it from Abe Books, it was probably very cheap. If you got it on the grant, it was probably cheaper. And if you were a professor, it was absolutely free. That is the true nature of availability. Is the book available for those that need it? Does that make sense? You need, once you get those 3 down and understand those concepts, the need to know, has it been altered, and is it available for me to see? Do I have the right to see it? Is it available for me to see, and has it been changed? If you got those, you're good. Then we talk about the 3 A's. Now, there are many issues with the 3 A's. But before I get to the 3 A's, the difference between the CIA triad and the 3 A's. The CIA triad you will see on your Security Plus test many times. Why? Because the CIA triad is a standard. The 3 A's are not a standard. You can see authentication, authorization, and accounting. You can see authentication, authorization, and auditing. You can see there'll still be the 3 A's, but there'll be 3 different A terms. Does that make sense? Depending on the author, will be 3 different A terms. So you'll see CIA in 3 A's, but the 3 A's will differ, and that's why you won't see them very much on the Security Plus. They may just say, what is the opposite, what's another area, and it'll say 3 A's or something of that nature. Authentication is the person who they say they are. Right? I'm authenticating Daphne as who she says she is. Authorization. Since I've authenticated her, I have validated her authorization. I'm giving her the authority to do what she needs to do. Then I'm going to audit her, or I'm going to account for her actions. I'm going to log everything that she does. Does it make sense? Once I authenticate her, I'm going to authorize her and give her account access, and then I'm going to monitor. That's all AAA does. And no, I'm not talking about the insurance company. We talked a little bit about defense in depth last week, right? Very little. I mentioned it. This just kind of gives you a little bit of a view of defense in depth, where the data is in the center, and you kind of have the CIA triad around it. And then you start putting more and more stuff. You have your physical security, your personnel security, organizational security, and you keep expanding around it. Does that make sense? What are products? I mean, think about it. What would some products be besides what it says, like physical door locks and things like that? Antivirus software. A product. It's something you can touch. Okay. A physical door, a wall, something like that.
Firewall be one, since it could be software or hardware.
Could be. People, obviously, personnel, right? Maybe a security guard. Procedures. That's kind of obvious. It's a policy or procedure, right? Now, let's talk about some terminology that you need to know. An asset. What is an asset?
Anything with value.
Anything with value. Usually in information field, it's data. Data itself is the asset. A threat. What is a threat? An action or event that could cause harm to your asset. Pretty simple, right? What is a threat agent? It's going to be the individual or the attack that will cause that takes that threat to that data. Pretty simple. So in this case, with Aiden, the asset was his rims. The threat was what? The threat was the loss of the rims. The threat agent, the thief. Okay, what was the vulnerability? The hole in the fence.
Right.
What was the risk? Would be the likelihood that the rims would have been stolen, right? Now, would he have accepted that risk because the cost could have been too high, or
Yeah.
let's say those are $1,000 piece rims, $4,000 to replace those rims. Would you have accepted that risk? Probably not. If they were $50 piece rims, okay, maybe.
You can spend up to $199 defending it, and you're still coming out ahead
Yeah.
monetarily.
Or you just go to an insurance company, say, hey,
That's
I want to protect these up to $4,000.
It's cheating.
Or you just go and tell your landlord fix the fence.
Or you do that, yes.
But in any situation, you're going to assume some part of the risk. You could tell your landlord fix the fence. You can say, here's your eviction notice. So here were the situation we talked about with Aiden. Now, we have the options. We can accept it, that we could lose the rims. We can diminish it by taking precautions. or do what we can to diminish the risk of information security leakage by putting into place policies, procedures. We can do information security awareness annually, semi-annually, quarterly, whatever. Or we can transfer it to someone else. Now, one thing you must know when you get in the corporate world, there's a law, I'm trying to remember the name of it now, that basically, even if you create a corporate policy, acceptable use policy, that says that your employees cannot commit corporate espionage by going to another company and getting that information and bringing it back to your company, you, the CEO, can still be fired. Did you know that? Because you're still responsible for what your employees do. It's trying to remember the name of it now.
Isn't it only if certain other things aren't done, like if reasonable?
No, you're still responsible. I remember what I wish I'd brought it up with me. It's down sitting on my desk. I'll be covering it in an hour and a half.
Yay!
It just slips my mind. But that's how there was a court case on it. The employee got off, but all the upper management got terminated and thrown in jail.
Then what's the point of the policy?
It was,
Protectability,
Well,
like every other law in this country, it seems.
well, I forget exactly everything with that court case, but that's what it stemmed from. Now, understanding the importance of information security, what is it supposed to do? Diminish the risk.
well, yeah, that's actually kinda accurate.
What was the question again? What's the point of security, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
To find acceptable levels of risk, to identify acceptable levels of risk and how to mitigate that?
Pretty much. The main goals of information security are to prevent data theft, thwart identity theft, avoid legal consequences of not securing information, maintain productivity, and foil cyber terrorism. So, do what?
I like lowering risk.
Lowering risk. What is one of the biggest parts of what is the worst category of information security loss?
Stolen data?
Is it identity theft?
Identity theft.
By worst, what do you mean by worst? As in the most prevalent?
Uh-huh. Because it causes the largest amount of financial loss. Okay? Because of that, they have created several laws. HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, Gramm-Leach, I can never say this, Bliley, I just call it the GLBA. The California's Database Security Breach Notification Act, COPA, U.S. Patriot Act. Those are just some to name the few. It's kind of interesting. How many of you are familiar with the California Data Security Breach Act? What's interesting with the California Security Data Breach Act is within 48 hours of a being data breach, if any, let's say my company is here in Oklahoma, if I've done business with anyone in California, if I have an online transaction with anyone in California, I have to notify everybody within 48 hours, or I can get sued from the state of California. Everybody. Because I've done transaction with the state of California.
Huh. It just said California residents in the book.
They changed it.
Okay, so don't work with California.
It got changed in 2008.
Okay.
So that's what's going on there. I've yet to figure out how he comes up with the total loss salaries, but Table 1.6 kind of gives you an estimate. Basically, you're going to have one employee working on recovery for every 100 people, essentially.
Okay.
Now, what kind of attackers do we have? Well, we have hackers, script kiddies, spies, insiders, cyber criminals, and cyber terrorists. Let's talk a little bit of each of these. Now, in general, a hacker can be referred to anyone that breaks into a computer. Right? In general, you remember the term white hat, gray hat, black hat, right? Let's discuss hackers. Notice we don't have the gray hat anymore. We just have white hat and black hat. What was a gray hat?
Was that somebody who would maybe break in, but not cause any damage that they could see? It was just, I broke in just because to show that I could, but I didn't take anything.
That's black.
That is black still? Okay.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Black is malicious.
Right.
So gray, that is gray.
Was it when they would do stuff that wasn't malicious?
Yes.
It would be like maybe for just their personal
Uh-huh.
use?
Like Nitnick.
A hacker is basically someone that just gets into a system. Okay. It's not really common inside our area. We're now known as basically we're known as crackers, and not to use the slang as a white person.
I thought crackers was the bad term.
Do what?
I thought crackers were black hat hackers.
No, within inside the community. A cracker is the term, and it's not meant to be a slang of a white man. But white hat hackers are those commonly referred to as CEHs, certified ethical hackers, like myself. I dropped my CEH. I dropped all my certifications because I didn't have the money to renew them. Black hat hackers are very malicious. They're usually your teenage kids that have nothing better to do than sit there and hack stuff on computers, and those that really just want to disrupt things. Script kiddies, these are also teenagers that have nothing better to do than to download programs to run them just to see what they can do. These are unskilled users that have absolutely no idea of what they're doing. You can download these from many different programs or other attackers for small fees or some large fees, depending on how mean the other attacker is. And most of the script kiddies, or most attacks, come from script kiddies. Spies. You really don't hear many about spies anymore, unless you're talking about the NSA or the CIA or any of those three letters from DC. basically they were hired to do international espionage.
But not in France.
Yeah. They get trained real well from the NSA or CIA or wherever to do all types of stuff, and they're trained to steal information without being caught. If they're caught, they're disavowed by their country. The country knows nothing about it, and you're basically out of luck. Insiders. Here is where the most prominent data thief is. Why? Because they already have access to the information. They don't have to do anything. I've already authenticated you. You have access to the information. How easy is it for you to take it outside?
Comically easy.
Easier.
You know, there was a situation where a lady was working on her home computer, working on work, was a staffer for a U.S. senator, and was in the Internal Affairs office for the United States Senate, and her computer at home was unsecured, and she had telneted in, and someone hacked her computer and got the investigation files for 30 senators, and it got leaked to the Washington Post, and out comes a schedule of the indictments for 30 senators for fraud. Needless to say, the case got closed because it got leaked out before the indictments got charged. So they were able to cover up their tracks before anything happened. So the evidence was falsified. All because she didn't protect her computer. Interesting, huh? You know, you see this U.S. Army private access sensitive documents. Private Manning. You remember him, right? He was the one that gave the cables to WikiLeaks. Gave sensitive diplomatic cables to WikiLeaks. Government employees playing a malicious coding script. He knew he was about to leave or get fired, so he put it 90 days after he left. He wrote a little script that once his email address got terminated or his account got terminated, 90 days later it would wipe things out, and he wiped out over 4,000 servers.
They caught that though before it happened, right?
No.
All of the books said that they caught it.
This particular, oh yeah, that one he did, but there's been some that they haven't caught. Very interesting. Cyber criminals. Basically, they're just ones that go about distracting you, causing you mischief. Is an individual. Okay? The difference between cyber criminal and cyber terrorist are the attacks by which they go about. That's really the main difference. Cyber criminal attacks you as an individual. Identity theft, flooding your inbox with spam. They'll fraud you. They look more towards the individual, is where and they're from Eastern European countries, Asia, Pacific, that kind of area. To where cyber terrorists, they go for the nuclear power plants, the electrical grid. They're more ideological, faith-based type issues. They're going to go for exactly infrastructural type stuff that's going to cause mass chaos. Your air traffic control systems, your emergency response systems, the World Trade Center type stuff that's going to just really hit it hard for a lot of people, not just a single person. Does that make sense? Attacks and defenses. What how would we prepare ourselves for an attack?
From or for?
Do what?
From or for? Am I going to be attacking or am I defending against it?
You're gonna be defending, obviously.
Okay. Oh, right.
Layers of security.
Yeah, you're gonna do. You're going to prepare yourself by having layers of security. Now let's talk about how we would attack. How do attackers attack? Well, they're going to probe you. How do they probe you? They solicit information. They'll pick up the phone and call you. What kind of operating system are you running? What kind of firewalls do you have? Are you seeing this? What kind of Microsoft Office are you running? Microsoft Office? You running OpenOffice? Once they get these types of pieces of information, they now know what vulnerabilities are existing, so they can get into your network. Then they'll run port scans to find out what type of ports are open. They're going to penetrate those ports. Then they can modify security settings to allow them permanent access into your system until you block it. Then they're going to go into other systems inside your system and do the same thing. Then when they have control over your entire network, then they're just going to dump your network, paralyze it, kill it, crush it, whatever you want to call it. That's their goal. Is there any questions on that? That's just illustration of it. Defenses against attacks. Layering approach. Right? Remember, we put one layer at a time around it. Now, I'll caution you with layering approach. You do not want to overlayer yourself. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to simplicity. Layering. Single defense mechanism that will allow or make it not easy to circumvent. Okay, you don't want just one layer so once they get through that they can get into anything. Okay, you want a couple different types of systems. And I caution you, if you have a system, you want to use multiple different types of devices in the system. Like, you don't want all the same vendor. You want a Cisco switch, a Nortel switch. Does that make sense? Keep them on two different network numbers. Limiting access to information. You want different people to have different access to the different switches too. Diversity. Layers must be different. Why? You want to make sure that no one has access to all of it. That's why if you go to a casino, not one person has access to any or all parts of the casino, except for maybe the owner. Not even the head manager has access to everything. Why?
Because you take out the manager, you have everything.
You would get it.
Plus the people are the weakest link, and most damage comes from insiders.
You got it. So by diversifying who you have in different spots, they can only have one segment. Obscurity. Don't give out any information. Security by obscurity. You've heard that term before, right? You should have if you read chapter 1. You want to make sure that you don't give away anything. Remember, they were talking about the crown jewels in England, where the guards every day change at different times. So you never know when they're going to change, so it makes it hard to plan an attack. Simplicity. You want to make sure it's as simple as it can be, because the more complex you make it, the harder it is to keep it up, thus making it easier for the intruder. Make sense?
Would you say that's kind of the major balance of, at least for, I guess, a bigger network, a bigger company, is balancing? It's cool enough to say, oh, simple on the inside, complex from the outside, but really, is that kind of one of the harder things for a big company security team? Is balancing that?
It's hard for anyone, because you really don't know. You have to really have a risk assessment. Where's your happy medium? Where do you feel is your happy medium? Honestly. How valuable is your data? If you have it complex on the outside, they're going to think it's even tougher on the inside, where you can make it lighter. If you make it look tough on the outside, people are not going to want to come on the inside. How many times have you gone to Walmart and seen the cameras all over the outside of the building? You know, once they put those up, their theft went down. And half those cameras are not even operational. They're just dummy cameras.
Oh, just like the rest of their checkout terminals?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It's just dummy camera. Because it makes people feel safe. And it's just sitting there. You know how I know that? Because I worked at Sam's Club. You know how many times the security guard was actually there to monitor the cameras?
8 days.
4 hours a month.
Was there any recording capability?
No.
I think I was off for a
And
Hit Sam's, thanks.
no, it gets better. It gets better than this. They only had 8 screens to monitor for 8 cameras, but they had 42 cameras inside the building and 12 on the outside. And he said, "Oh, half of those are dummies." It was just because he said it's just to deter people from wanting to steal. He said that's why we train y'all to look out for people. And he told me, he said, "Well, Walmart can't afford all this." I'm like, "Really?"
Low prices. They can't even afford to keep cashiers.
Evidently, but that's why it was. But it was kind of strange. But you want to make sure that your outside makes people think that it's more secure on the inside.
So, for the super awesome hacker, whatever term I'm using, or I guess a spy especially, do we ever see the opposite effect? Where it looks impregnable on the outside, so they go, well, clearly this can't be the case, so that actually invites like really sophisticated people? No, Matt, no. They go after the easy target.
No, they don't go after the easy. They want to go after the hard. Because if they break the hard, they get pats on the back from everyone in the community. So you make it look too easy for them, you're not going to get hacked. If you're talking about physical security, like we were with the Queen Elizabeth and the crown jewels and stuff, you want to make it look harder. But when you're trying to employ via networks, you want kind of a half and half, make it easy median. So you kind of got to weigh how valuable is your data. So you back it up every day, several times a day. I mean, several times a week, not several times a day. You'd be backing up too much. So you good? Did I answer everyone's questions? Did this kind of make it a little bit better for you?
Or worse. Either way.
Is there any questions? No?
What's happening Wednesday?
We're going to discuss more. I'm going to break in groups and we're going to apply.
Boo.
Chapter 1 stuff?
Then
We're
we
going to
have that
apply this.
quiz.
Do what?
Then we have that quiz that's due on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Your hands-on projects are due Wednesday. But we'll be discussing and applying some layered approaches. I'll give you all a scenario. You'll work in small groups and we'll do that. Does it make sense? Everyone good? Alrighty.